Woke up today.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this super special edition of the podcast show that we call the Takeover. Yes, what's going to be happening today is the HR team is taking over the seats of the podcast team, and we have placed them where they usually place us in the answering chairs. So with me in this takeover are my partners in crime. Yes, this beautiful crime that we are having today. We have the incredible Ikemesit. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Hi, my partner in crime. Hi to our guests, the podcast team members. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Ikemesit, and I'm looking forward to having a wonderful conversation with you all.
We also have the glorious Glow. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. Yes, my name is Gloria and I am so excited to be here co-hosting, and also I am so excited to be part of this special segment. It's truly an honor to share a mic with my amazing co-hosts Amil and Ikemesit. And basically, again, this is the HR takeover, but do not worry everyone, we will take it easy on you. So have fun, but buckle up.
Love that. Okay, so let me introduce our podcast team members. When I call your name, please just introduce yourself and what you do in the podcast team. I'll start off with our executive, the amazing Anyekame.
Thank you very much. I'm very nervous now because I hate partner in crime and buckle up and listening. So thank you very much. My name is Anyekame Udaikon. I'm the lead of the podcast team. So I usually work behind the scene, creating the content and writing script with my partners.
And we have the dazzling Darius.
Hi, Emil. Hi, Gloria. Hi, Ikemesit. My name is Darius Udaikong. I am the co-lead of the podcast team, and I mostly help the team in hosting and editing script. Thank you for having me.
And we have the amiable Abraham.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Abraham Daniel. I'm a member of the podcast team. I usually it's the views and videos most times. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the members. Sadly, we don't have the sagacious sheriff with us at the moment. Hopefully, he will join us later. But with no further ado, let us go in.
Woke up today. The sun is shining.
The podcast team has been doing an incredible job for the past year. And this is just our way of highlighting them and the great work that they do. So without further ado, let me give over to my partners in crime who will be hosting most of this conversation. Let's have fun.
Hi, everyone. Like I said earlier, my name is Ikemesit, and I'll be co-hosting with Amel alongside with Gloria. So let's get started. It's a great pleasure to have you all here. You know, you all have been the heart and soul of the podcast team. And today, we are here to know more about your team. We are here to celebrate you. And we are here to have fun with you. So let's start with something light. Anyekame, this is for you. So Anyekame, tell us what inspired you to get into the podcast team and what has been your favorite moment so far.
Thank you very much. So I would say the podcast team was created out of a miss. I think I would say I did not pronounce what I wanted to pronounce to Carol very well. So it started November last year when I was in IHF for like 3 months, and 3 months I wasn't doing anything. So I was with John. I was not that John in social media. So there was a time Carol was messaging me, so telling me what is happening. Do you want to go into pink or red? So the way they normally do it, they're not active in IHF. So there was some point that in November, before 20th of November, that was 1960, she called me, she messaged me then, and I told Carol that, okay, the reason why I've not been active is because I'm not used to waiting as a media person on a social media account handling Twitter. Then someone is telling me to wait, that they will be bringing content from somewhere, which I don't think it will help me. So I want to be generating my content. That was the word I used, but she then misinterpreted it, which became something beautiful, and said, "Oh, a podcast." That was how she then said, "Wow, podcast, let's do it." Then she now said, "Okay, let me just kukuma go like that." I said she will not say, I did not pronounce the word, but let me just go like that. So that was how we went through November. Then December, she opened the group and we started posting the classroom podcast as well. Before I said, let's do something different. Let's start doing interviewing you. She said no. Then that was how the team started. Then the memorable moment will be the day we ended the talk with the CEO. The pass it on with Carol, where we met every lead to give us their appreciation message. That was one of the podcasts we had that we really put in 100% effort. And because the reason why was because we were just starting as of that March, April. So we didn't have prior knowledge of how to do podcasts, but we're growing into it and we executed everything very nice. So I believe that particular moment is one of the moments I believe should be top.
Okay, that is really nice, Anikeme. You've really done such a wonderful job being, I would say, the founder of the podcast team in IHF. So this next question goes to Darius, and it's much of an icebreaker. So, if the podcast team were to host a reality show, which of you would you think will win and why?
I think Enekime would win. The reason is because I feel like he is very outgoing. As you can hear him speak, he has so many characters. He can act so many things. He can be funny, he can be loud, he can be quiet, and most people mostly find him interesting. We in the team, we have a team amongst ourselves where we rehearse. So he makes us laugh, he makes us relaxed. So I think he would win it because he has so many characteristics and he's a pretty interesting guy. So yeah, Enekime.
Yeah, Darius, I truly agree with you. Anikeme is a really interesting guy. Though I'm not in the podcast team, but our relationship in IHF, I would say Anikeme is an interesting guy. And yes, like you said, he has his way over everything. He can be a calm person. He can be an interesting person. He can be very funny. So I agree with you. Now, moving forward, I have a question for Abraham. Abraham, are you ready?
100%.
Okay. So, Abraham, I would love to ask you, what was that podcast that you guys planned but you think it did not go, you think it would not go well because you guys did not really plan for it, but it ended up going well?
Whoa, this question is very technical. Like, it's a very technical question. Now, reason being that I'm not sure there's any of the podcasts that we didn't plan, as in any of the podcasts we held that was not planned. As a matter of fact, from this previous answer to Anekeme, this guy is very, very detailed. Like, when I mean detailed, he's detailed to the last. So when we have something like podcast, the planning is something else. As in, we plan the podcast as though we want to have an interview with the president. That's how real it is. So I'm not sure there is or there has been any podcast that we did not plan and it turned out becoming, no, I'm not sure there is any.
It means that the podcast team is very organized. You guys are very detailed. I love that. So, Gloria, do you have anything you want to comment on that? Or Amil?
Oh, no, I'm just very impressed at the precision and the detail that goes into to the point where the team members are like, no, are like minuscule detail is taken into account. And that is why we have to celebrate you guys. Like, you can see this. I don't think many of us even knew how much work you guys put into producing just one episode. So yeah, let's keep it firing.
All right. I understand that in life we all go through tough times and challenges, and I understand that in the podcast team maybe there is a situation where things did not really go smoothly. So Darius, I have a question for you. Darius, what has been your biggest challenge as the host, and how did you overcome it? Because the reason why I'm asking this question is all the podcast sessions I have joined and have been interviewed, you're always the host, and I'm wondering how you do this, because it usually comes out so nice, interesting and fun that sometimes I really do not want the podcast session to end, but there's time for everything. So Darius, my question now is, what has been that tough moment and your biggest challenges as a host, and how did you overcome it?
Thank you so much for that compliment. It's really nice. I think I would take it back to when we started, like Enekeme was saying. I remember when I joined, I've told this story before, and the CEO heard my voice and she was like, you would do well. I think she didn't know that time Enekeme was my brother, but she was always speaking with Enekeme, trying to make Enekeme force me to join the podcast and do audio and stuff like that. And I was like, no, it's too much. I'm overwhelmed. And I remember the first time when we had a podcast to do, I can't remember the one exactly. And there was someone called Sylvia at that time. And it was Enekeme, Sylvia, and I. We were supposed to do, what's it called? We're supposed to do one podcast. We just wanted to do a trial to see whether we can nail it. And I remember that I didn't have any training prior to that, because it was a new team, and I went on YouTube. I was learning the types of voices. It was a lot of work for me, and I was so nervous. I didn't know how to do it, and it was just with Sylvia at that time, and she had a little knowledge about public speaking, so she would help us out. Like, okay, that's where we knew to always train before time, like have training 2 hours before the podcast. So would have some time where we meet up and train. And I remember when we'd come on the Zoom and would be trying to speak and see whether it would come out nice, and they'll be correcting me like, no, you're too high, your voice is too this. And at a point, I remember when I told my brother, no, Enekeme, I'm not going to do this. I don't think I am cut out for this. And he was like, you're doing okay, it's just us. You're already familiar with Sylvia, okay. And Eneke was like, okay, let's bring Mary Blessing so that I can be the host, and Enekeme and Sylvia can be co-host, and Mary Blessing would act like the guest. So we tried it, and it was nice. It was nice, but I had to tell the story so you'd see where the challenge was that I don't think I believed in myself. I don't think I thought that I could speak to people, or my voice was interesting for people to want to listen to. And I was trying to push them to Enekeme to be the host, but Carol insisted on me. I don't know why she did, but I think I'm glad that she did not give up, because I gave up on myself. So the podcast team, which was just a little team that came out, that Enekeme, Sylvia, and I and Mary Blessing formed as at that time. So the challenges was that it was too much, and I didn't think that it would be successful. So yeah.
That is really amazing. And to everyone listening, what Darius has said is a call that everyone should believe in themselves. And most importantly, thank you to our CEO, Carol, for always believing in us and our young talents. And I believe we are going to grow and grow and grow and be better. So everyone, please believe in yourself. Know that you can do it. Never doubt what you could not see, because most people out there see that you can do it. So for this next question, it's Abraham. This will be your question, and the question is, I know that for every role that one place, there are various challenges, and we just want to know what has been the most difficult aspect of your role as a podcast member, and how do you always overcome such challenges?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for this question. All right, so lots of challenges actually when it comes to podcasting, and for example, myself, when I'm editing podcasts, or even sometimes some of the challenges we face even while recording. In fact, I faced one of it just some minutes ago, as in the first question I was asked. I could put it and place it under technical issues. Technical issues could be sound quality or equipment malfunction. Okay, so my phone suddenly malfunctioned. Imagine that it was at the very point the name Abraham was called and a question thrown to Abraham. That was when my phone decided not to turn on so that I will unmute. I was carrying my mind in my hand. I'm like, God, what's wrong with this phone? I was just trying, and luckily it came up. So these are some of the things that could happen, that you could even ask the question and it will take time for you to get a response. Probably because the person that is supposed to respond is trying to talk and the button is not pressing. Okay, so most times, coming to the editing part of it, one of the podcasts that I tried editing, when we did the recording, it was less than 1 hour. But by the time I was done recording, I suddenly saw 2 hours there. I even told Anikeme, I was like, no, this is not possible. I decided to go back, only to realize that so many of the questions and answers, I duplicated them. So a lot of these issues arises, and some of the issues are out of one's control. But for me, I just try my possible to make sure, before, when I joined the podcast team newly, I was always transmitting my data through my phone. But later, I had to stop doing that. So now, anytime we have podcast, I make sure that my Wi-Fi is there and charged, because if I'm using my phone's data, when a call comes in, definitely it's going to disrupt the podcast, because this is an online thing. So I have learned that, so I don't transmit through my phone. I use my Wi-Fi, something external. So these are things that I try to place to make sure that I have almost, I'm not going to say 100%, because even electronics are not 100% efficient, but at least almost a very smooth efficiency when it comes to the recording. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Abraham, for sharing your experience and challenges. I must say you went through a lot. Sorry about that, and I'm glad you overcame them. And I understand the aspect you talked about, the audio editing. I really understand that takes a lot of time, and I must say you're doing well. Thank you for everything you do, and keep doing what you do. So I have a question for Aniekeme. Aniekeme, as the brain box and the founder of the podcast team, I would want to know how you stay motivated. I would love to know how you stay motivated to constantly delivering impactful episodes on the podcast session, because I know that we have different episodes in the podcast team in IHF, like the Pass It On, the Talk with the CEO. So how do you stay motivated to constantly deliver such great podcast sessions?
Okay, yeah, I think is first of all, motivation comes from the people that I'm surrounded with, because we have Abraham, Darius, Sherif, and a lot of members, and as well as when we go online, we watch other people do, and we just try to see if we can be the best. And the tool is all, we just want to be successful. And the surrounding of how we change podcasts, sometimes we might just be, or I might just be working, we might just be working, and we just come up with an idea, just like the one we had yesterday. So since we have a chatting here, why not we talk about something called let's look at the 365 days. So that might be a topic that we want to explore together and sit down and chat. So sometimes we just pick some things that is happening. So we are very more, it's all about creativity. So we look at every single word or keyword we see in IHF. We want to twist it, like they pass it on. I saw it on the website, and I saw pass it on. I say, who are we passing on to? Then we started the Pass It On podcast, and we just say, okay, let's switch the gear, because it's all about having different episode and different ideas and different content. If you keep giving one content, you try other content to see which one is getting better, and that's it. The motivation is all about people I'm surrounded with. The members, like I said, Abraham, Darius, and Sherif, they are my motivation. They are always there, and they try as much as possible to ensure that we get it the best.
Okay, that is quite interesting. 365 days seems to be a quite interesting topic, and we're really waiting for that episode to come out personally. And now I will just ask Darius the question. So, Darius, being the co-lead, I know that you play very important roles in this podcast team. Could you share like what inspired you to join not only the podcasting but as well as IHF as an organization, and how your leadership style has evolved over time?
Gloria, can we take it one by one, because I have really short memory.
Okay, no problem. So please just tell us and share like what inspired you to first join IHF. And then of course you have already explained the podcast part. So just share what inspired you to join IHF.
Okay. I'm sorry, but it will seem like I'm calling Enekeme a lot, but Enekeme is like my okay, I don't know whether you can call your sibling soulmate, but he's my favorite person. So I remember when we were home, was it last year by this time, and we were speaking. I think that's the time he joined IHF, either the time or earlier. So he would always be having meetings. One time, I don't know why I'm just very blurred about the details, but I will try to make it nice. So he mentioned, I asked him one time, when he came in, what are you doing? Which kind of meeting is that? And he said there is this organization he just joined there in the US, but they have centers. He just explained to his knowledge as at that time, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. And he was like, I think you should apply for it too. And I said, no, what if it is okay? I don't want to say that. What if it's not a good place for me? And he said, I should just try. And I told him, what if they don't give me the opportunity, take me after I apply? And he said I should not worry about that he would give me the manual to how he got in, so that I can also be accepted. So I said, okay. And he was like, okay, I shouldn't worry, that I should just send him my CV, that he would apply for me. So I said, okay. So fast forward to January, he did everything for me. I remember when I was in my university trying to get my results, and I got a message that I have an interview. I remember that day I was very, very frustrated. I was on the road working around the school premises, and it was just a very hot day. And I had an interview. I didn't even remember that I had an interview, but it's Enekime that called me. I was like, today you have the interview today, or I just got the reminder, try and accept. I told him, I'm not doing that. I'm frustrated. I'm on the road. There's no point. And he said I should just try, even though it doesn't have to be pretty, that they would just ask me normal question that I already know, which is about my life. So I remember when I had the call from the interview at that time, I didn't want to pick, and he messaged me again like, try and pick. I know that you have not picked it, but try and do it. So I called the person back and I spoke. I was on the road when I had the interview and it was very noisy, and he was kind of patient with me. So he asked me some question. I didn't really know any too much about the organization then. I think it was when I was on my way back home that I put up my phone and I was reading. I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I had the interview. It was after I finished the interview that I read about the organization. I was pretty impressed. I said, okay, hopefully I did well. And Ekeme said I shouldn't really bother, that if I said what I've always said in my job interviews, then I'll probably get it. And I remember when I got the message and I shouted, I showed him, I said, hey, they have called me or they have sent me this thing. What should I do? Help me out. So it's just the brief. It's more than that. Some are not pretty, some are pretty, but I'm just trying to summarize it. So yeah, that's how I got to know about IHF through NAKME.
That is quite interesting. And now to the second part of the question. So I know like Grandma Carol has been teaching various leadership skills, and maybe when you got in, probably you had zero leadership skills. And now that you have been taking several leadership roles as well as teams, I would just love to know, how has your leadership journey, how has your leadership style evolved since you joined IHF?
Oh, okay. I would just like to say that I don't think I had any leadership thing in me, even though I am the elder sister and I have two younger siblings. I really did not consider myself a leader. When people ask me, are you a leader or a follower, I'd say I'm a follower. And I never really thought I would lead anything in my life. So when I was put in teams, I remember when I'll use the newsletter team as an example. I was just always in the I mostly like to be should I say a background person. And so I don't know how Carol managed to just fish me out like that. And I remember when I was saying, this woman is after my life. Some of us that are Nigerian will know what that means. So she said, she just gave me the newsletter, as just said, lead it. And I said, I don't know what newsletter is, so I don't know where to start from. And she was like, we all know how she is. I'm not listening to you. I don't want to hear anything from you. That's your team now. You have to lead it. And I didn't know anybody there. I didn't even know how to start. I just knew that I had to go on YouTube to learn as at that time. And then she started with the GLD. She started teaching us how she teaches, and I'll be listening. It was just a thing of survival, so she doesn't yell at me. But if I realized that she was very approachable, if you have any problem or question, you can always go to her. So I would always do that, even though I wouldn't really say she was nice. She didn't go easy on me at all. I don't even understand why it's just like that. But I think that it was good as at that time, because then I didn't have it. I thought I didn't have it in me, and I was just still there. I was relying on Tim and John as at that time. I didn't even though I was the team lead, I didn't behave like a team lead. When I think about how I used to behave that time, like, oh, childish and immature, I feel really embarrassed. But it's okay. It's part of growth. So it was later, I think around August, that I started getting a hang with the GLD meetings and communicating with people. I knew, okay, I have to step up and take responsibility, because I remember when I'll be put like pointing fingers, if there is anything wrong, I'll say, it's this person's fault. And I remember when she said one day, if there is anything wrong with your team, you have to take responsibility. It is not your team members' fault for your problem. And I remember I argued with her, it is not my fault, I didn't do this person did. And she said, that is the problem, you should not point fingers, you should see it as. She gave me one very nice example that I've applied it to my life, and it works. And she was like, I should see it like my phone. Let's say that there are so many apps on my phone, and something happens I have to take responsibility. I have to fix it. So she was like, instead of saying, okay, it is WhatsApp that is crashing and ruining my phone, let's just say that maybe I did not update the WhatsApp. So I was like, okay. So since then, I started taking accountability. I started stepping up. I then had a co-lead and manager, and I would assign tasks. And since then, it's been seamless. I think at that time, I think the leadership skill I just only had was just, I think it was just to do whatever the CEO says. But later on, I realized that if I'm leading a team, I have to step up. I'm leading the team for a reason. I have to give my own ideas. I have to listen to my team members. So I think now I'm pretty flexible, and the work is no more, it's not really much on me now because I know how to delegate tasks. I know my team members, their weaknesses, their strength. I'm studying them. I like to be friendly with them too, because when you're friendly with people, you get to know what they can do and what they cannot do. They can always come to you. They feel safe with you, even though they mess up, which is normal for human beings to do. I don't really get offended easily. I just say, okay, it's okay, no problem. Just try, and or they miss deadline, which they mostly do. I just like, okay, it's fine. You can just make sure that you do this. So I'll say that it's mostly like Carol has helped a lot, and I'm really honestly just grateful to IHF because I've learned so many things that I didn't know that I could do, and I've grown as a person and professionally and all round. So all thanks to the CEO and IHF.
Aww, Darius, you've actually said a lot, and it reminds me of how we all started. For real, I can remember when the issue between you and Michael Akanimo in your team that time. I can remember all the struggles, but I'm glad that it paid off, and I'm glad that you are now confident in yourself and you're more comfortable with your team. And I'm glad to see the progress that the podcast team has made so far. The way you people started is not the way you people are currently, and it's a big win for people, I must say. The podcast team is very interesting. Everything about the podcast team, a lot of people in IHF wants to be in the podcast because of how you all do your stuffs and present things. So I'm super excited and glad to hear from you. I also want to tell you that you should believe in yourself the more, because you are doing well. If I usually after each podcast, I usually tell people that I like the way Darius usually hosts. I used to wonder how you do it and where you get your creativity from. But I'm shocked to hear that you never believed in yourself and that you were just a background person. Thanks to Grandma Carol that saw these potentials in you and activated it. So moving forward, I have a question for Anye Keme as the team lead. So it's still about the journey of the podcast team. So Anye Keme, I understand that you are the one that brought up the Pass It On podcast. I do not know if you're the one that brought up the Talk with the CEO show, but I would love to know your journey. Like, let me use from February, or let's say from March till now. How has your journey as the executive of the podcast team been? How has it been, and what's your achievements and everything? Just tell us your journey.
Okay, so the journey has been, I would say, progressive, because we have been seeing some minor changes, and hearing this from you guys and you and every other person that you enjoy and really wants to be part of the podcast team is something that we just look back and say, oh, we are progressing. The journey has been, I think, the reason why I think the journey has somehow been smooth and easy, in a sense that the podcast team was given that freedom to think creatively. And, when we started, I remember when Carol, and it's always now that the picture is getting clearer, because when we started, I was always saying that, you will be the face of the podcast team. We'll be interviewing you. But she kept saying that she doesn't want to be the face of this particular team. She wants the volunteers to be the face of the team. So I know how to do that. I said we should figure out a way how we can do that. Then when we started the Pass It On, she was introducing volunteers for us. At some point she said, be like, you guys will be taking this thing like that. So because she was babysitting us, but she left everything for us to be doing. And it was a very big task. But we had some members, Sylvia, who was in the graphics team as at that time, Darius, the joining us at February was difficult somehow because we used to do classroom podcasts. So there was a time that we had to transfer all the podcasts from the classroom one from the drive to the Spotify. So I used to do it one by one, but there was a time I made a mistake. I would say there was a time that she wanted to even remove me from IHA because she wanted me to label it by color. That was around January, February. But because when she sent that message on the voice note, I was watching football, so I didn't know what she meant. I just thought that she said label it by colors of how you want it. So I didn't know that human resource was yellow, media was purple. So I just said, okay, label. The way I see the title, I just put the color emoji. She now started and said, what the hell is this? Oh my God, that was when she was doing holy moly, that language. That was when I thought, okay, let me change the color to yellow, because before they now change it to square and everything. That was the most difficult job in the podcasting, arranging the classroom podcast. But when we moved to having the breach of humanity, I remember when I did public podcast, she said, no, what should be the right way? I said, okay, let's use breach of humanity. It has something to do with connecting with humanity from your advice. She said, okay, that was when we started looking at how to reform that to ensure that we join the organization, as well as using the organization volunteers, children, the CEO to touch human lives outside based on practical principle and tax done. So that was the origin of the talk with the CEO. The Pass It On. So we interviewed people who have been in the organization for a longer time. And we started with, I think, I'm trying to remember some people we interviewed at that time. Then we did that. So the progress was, that time was only Darius. She was the one doing the podcast, everything. So I was the one editing the audio, using Audio Lab. But when we now did with the talk, when we evolved to using scripts, was doing the CEO's part, and we then move on. We say, okay, we are done with it. That was when we started doing GOD. I remember when we interviewed you, Emil, and a lot of other GOD. So we used to give critical questions. So we now move from having George, Perfect, and a lot of people, Joyce, still were in the team doing questions. We move on to having Abraham, who is amazing in what he does in terms of branding into a video format, using his creativity level and the script. So we then move from that journey from being only one host, which was Darius, to how we're going to ensure that everyone is a host. We tried it multiple times and it failed. We tried with me. I failed woefully when I was co-hosting. Then Darius was saying, this thing is not going to work. So how are we going to? We have to figure out a way that every single person in the podcasting can be able to host and be involved in the show. So that was when I think that's when we saw that we had a big win, when we started co-hosting, having different hosts in the show, entire podcasting being a host. Before it was, we pick two people host or one, and people write the script. Some people look at the questions. So we then move on to generating questions, researching. So before we do any podcast, we go through a very thorough process. We research on the team. We make sure that we are well informed. Then we can then look at possible questions we can give. So I think it's a journey that we look back in 9 months or 10 months, we'll say, yeah, because of the training we have had. Normally now, we don't even, before we used to do training for like three times a day, 4 times. But now we just do it an hour before, because we already know how. Sometimes we just come into the distance, we just ease ourselves, laugh, do all this, and just go through some things and say, okay, before we used to impersonate the guest, ask the question, the person will say, this person will answer this, then what should be the follow-up question? We kind of practice rehearsing, but now I think we are at the stage we can say, okay, we have moved a step further. So I believe that is something we just look back and say, yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And having been one of the people that have watched the team's progress and growth. I mean, already from the start, it didn't feel like there was much growth needed because you guys always came across so prepared, so polished, so ready, and that you polished and shined the top surface so beautifully. And now to hear the backstory of the waves underneath the surface, of how you guys were having personal growth, which is always a challenging thing, to step out of your comfort zone, so that you can fill the bigger shoes that you need to wear. And I'm getting that from all three of you, and I'm just, I'm so impressed. I'm honored to be part of hearing this story. And I hope that our listeners also just got that, of how each of you has grown from the process, embodying the whole learning and practice that being part of the IHF GLD program is about. So I think for now, let's just move things on a slightly different pace. I don't know if you guys are ready, but ready or not, here we go. Abraham, what is the one thing that you love about the podcast team?
Yeah, thank you, Amel. Thanks for that wonderful question. Wow, the one thing I love about the podcast team, I love my leaders, Anekeme and Darius. These two guys are wonderful people. Of course, there's no way you cannot be good when you're under great people, great minds. Like, you want to have something, and these people that you're coming together with to do this thing, these guys are extraordinary. So there's no way I will just sleep, wake, and just come into the room empty. No. So these two guys, they make me stay on my knees all the time. Okay, so something happened recently. Like, normally Anekeme would give us a plan for the month. Okay, we're going to have this recording first week. This is what we have second week. This is what we have third week, and this is what we have fourth week, which he did. All of a sudden, for the last podcast, he just said, "Abraham, you're going to be the host." Whoa. That in itself is enough for me to say, guy, you should have told me this stuff like 2 months ago now. Let me start preparing. But I'm learning from the best. So excuses cannot be part of my learning process. So I just had to do that. And at the end of the day, Darius was like, "Man, you performed excellently." I said, yes, I did, because I learned from the best. So that's why I'm saying that these two guys are one of the best things, one of my best experiences right here in the podcast team.
Okay, Abraham, I must say, I think the podcast team is the only team in IHF that you put all your heart into. I think maybe because that's the only team you really, really love. So thank you for sharing that. I learned that game from you all in my last podcast that we had, where you people asked us to answer questions within 10 seconds. So any question that we ask you now, we expect you to use 10 seconds to answer it. It needs to be very, very fast. And we are going to be giving scores to the people that win. So if your answer comes after 10 seconds, you are not going to get any point. So I'm going to scrap, we won't count this last question you just did. We are going to start from now. I think Amio has questions for you. Gloria has questions for you. So I'm going to come in. So let's start with Gloria.
Sorry, is this payback?
Yes.
Everything is payback about today. Everything. Yes. It's a hostage situation.
Now you all are going to know what it feels like to be on the hot seat. Hello.
Okay. So, so I will start with drum rolls. I will start with Abraham. So, so Abraham, what is your favorite podcast session so far?
My favorite podcast session so far. This podcast, this ongoing podcast.
No, wait. It wasn't supposed to be that. What is your favorite podcast channel apart from this IHF one?
Oh, channel.
Yes.
The name is hovering around my brain, but it's not coming in.
Time's up. That's a 0 for Abraham. Okay. And Ikema said, please take your next person.
Okay.
Abraham, sorry.
So Abraham, so sorry about that. So moving forward, Aniekeme, I hope you're prepared for me. 10 seconds. Now, my question for you, Aniekeme, is what other name would you give the Pass It On podcast if it wasn't Pass It On, and why? 10 seconds. The time starts now.
Da-da-da-dum. Time's up. Oh, come on. We cannot have people with the name starting with A. You are letting us down. I am A as well. We can't have zeros. Please.
No,
Maybe Darius can save us here.
I wasn't
you
hearing
sure?
chemistry. I
Are
wasn't
you
hearing
sure that
chemistry.
I thought as much. I hope you didn't hear me because let me go over it again. I hope you're not
Okay.
using AIO.
No.
Okay. So I said, what other name? Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Though I'm having a bad feeling, but let's have it. What other name would you give the Pass It On podcast if it wasn't Pass It On?
Progressiveness.
Okay, I think you answered that within 10 seconds. So 2 points for you. So Aniekeme has 2 points.
0 points for Abraham, 2 points for Aniekeme. Darius, let us see if you can dazzle them. What is one resource that inspires you? Any book, anything, a resource that inspires you as Darius. And
TikTok
go.
and YouTube. TikTok and YouTube. TikTok videos and YouTube videos.
Can you be more specific? You're halfway there.
Podcast YouTube videos.
Okay. I will give that to Darius. Yes? Do we agree?
Yes, we agree. So 2 points for Darius, 2 points for Aniekeme, and 0 for Abraham.
So, this next one, Aniekeme, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so give us a fun fact about you that no one here knows about. No one, including Darius.
It's really, I'm a football lover or a die-hard Messi lover.
We already know that.
I know.
Saying that in your status.
Give him 0.
We already know that. So 0. 0 for Aniekeme.
You want to try that again, Aniekeme?
Die-hard Messi lover.
Okay, gone. That's a 0. Okay. Ikema said you take the next one.
Okay, so Darius, this is for you. So Darius, describe your team members in one word.
Funny.
For real, they are really funny people. Please,
Darius is on the road.
Darius has 4, Aniekeme has 2, Abraham has 0.
Abraham, I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself. Yeah, okay. Are you ready? Are you ready, Abraham? If you could work on any project with the podcast team right now, what project would you want that to be?
Anything that has to do with editing.
Be specific. It's a project, so not any project. It's like what project? Be specific.
Are you signifying just in the podcast, right?
Yes. I'm counting starting now.
Abraham.
But that now, like editing a project now, like editing.
Which project are you talking about, Abraham? Editing a project. Abraham, you
What
have
project?
Okay, like this show now going on. It's a project, yeah. Editing it.
No, it is not. It is not. I feel like Abraham's under fire here.
Yes. Now, Abraham, in our last podcast, you were just asking me questions, and you were now expecting me to answer them fast. Now it's your turn, no?
Oh my.
You know what? You can use your zeros to make balloons for Christmas. How's that? It
So-
looks like that at this point.
Abraham, I'm so sorry.
I'll be ready.
To hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt you. So who is going next? Is it me?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. Why am I always falling under Anyekeme? Okay. Anyekeme, hope you are prepared for me. Oh.
Yes. Oh. Yes.
So, Anyekeme, if you had an opportunity to host a podcast with someone outside of IHF, who would it be?
Lionel Messi.
Oh, Lionel Messi. seems like you really love this Messi guy.
That wasn't a platter, though. That wasn't a platter.
So, Anyekeme has 4. Darius has
4.
how many?
4. And we love Abraham.
Oh, Jesus.
And Abraham.
Okay. Now,
Chloe, will you please?
yes. Let me. So this one goes to Darius. Darius, let's say the podcast team could take a trip anywhere in the world for a team retreat. Where would you choose?
Paris.
Aish. Okay.
Darius.
Okay,
This is like the third time you're answering so fast. Are you sure that they have not given you an AI gene?
Chat GPT.
No.
You're very smart. Okay, so let me give Abraham one more chance.
Please
Abraham,
go easy on him, please.
Abraham,
Yes,
don't fold my hands. One more chance.
Yes.
One more. I just want you to have 2, so that if you add that 2 to the 2 zeros, at least you have 2 zeros to get. So, Abraham, what is your favorite podcast session so far?
Talk with the CEO.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
2
can we
points
all
for
just stop
Abraham.
and clap for Abraham?
Please, everybody should clap for Abraham because
Yes, please. We're just like, the world is celebrating this moment. Thank you, Abraham.
Trying to shield myself. You know, I cannot do better than my orgas. If I go back, they can remove me from podcast team.
No, that's very important, and that's very true.
So Abraham, is that your excuse? Abraham, is that your excuse?
Okay, I've got a question for Anyekeme. Anyekeme, you are doing the podcast, right? You have got one language to choose, and why? If it's not English, what language would it be and why?
I would choose Spanish because I'm a Barcelona fan. I love Spain.
I feel like
Baka.
everything is tied to soccer for you. Okay. That's a 2. That's a 2.
Darius, Darius,
Yeah.
I want you to have 0 so that Abraham will be happy.
Okay, we'll
So
see.
I have one question for you now.
Okay.
So Darius, in one word, how would you say you felt the first time you hosted a podcast in IHF? Just one word.
Never.
Abraham, I'm sorry. Despite all I tried to give you a partner.
Thank you so much. That was fun. But I think we have and let's do it in reverse. With 2 zeros, we have Abraham, who's got 2. It's not sitting on a 0. He's got 2. Thank you for participating. And with 3 2s, we have Anyekame, who has 6 in total. And number 1, the champion for today is, drum roll, Darius with 8.
Darius, I'm proud of you. Women supporting women.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It was fun.
How do you know that Darius now I'm a messy lover?
Me, even if Darius does not know me, I used to see it on your status
Everybody
messy
has
every
to
time.
know.
Everybody on your status knows that you're a Messi fan.
Oh.
Next time.
Oh man, guys, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I just want to say thank you to our guests, Anyekame, Darius, and Abraham, for just taking the time to let us take over your seats and giving us your time and your honesty and your answers, which have been so deep and so honest and revealed so much about you and so much more about the team. We are so grateful to you for this, and we really appreciate you and what you do. To my partners in this beautiful crime, Glow and Ikemesit, thank you ladies for doing a brilliant job. If you guys get tired of HR, but don't you dare ever. But at least you can also cut it on the podcast side of things. There is an opportunity there. So thank you for a beautiful job that you've done. Can I, since it is the holiday seasons and people are celebrating by sharing and giving gifts, can I ask Glow and Ikemesit to please present their gifts for our guest today? So Ikemesit, you can present your gift to Darius, please.
Okay, Darius. This is my beloved gift to you. You know I love you so much, and I love all the works you do in IHF. So this is what I have to say to you. I just want you to know how much I appreciate you and your incredible work, the works that you're doing as the co-leader of the podcast team. You're very intelligent, like I usually say. You're very creative, and your dedication shines through in everything that you do. I love you, and I believe in you wholeheartedly, just like the organization believes in you. Mostly, Grandma. As usual, I want you to always remember that you have so much potentials, and we are confident in your ability to achieve amazing things. Keep believing in yourself as much as we believe in you, and just know that you are a shining star and you should keep shining your light. On behalf of the Human Resource Division, we want to tell you that we see what you're doing and we love you.
Thank you. I love you guys too. Thank you. That's a lot to me. Thanks a lot.
Anyekame, I will say this very slow. So, Anyekame, thank you for being such an incredible team lead. I will say your leadership has has been great. It has been nothing short of inspiring. I will say that since I joined the first podcast session that you invited us as the HR team, and you guide this podcast team with such passion, dedication, and vision, and basically just creating a space where everyone feels empowered to do their best work. It's clear that under your guidance, the team has grown and accomplished so much. And Anikeme, we truly appreciate everything you do, not only to the podcast team, but to IHF as an organization. Your commitment and hard work are what make this team so very special. So thank you so very much for being such an amazing team lead. And also, I believe you are a mentor to some or to all. So thank you so much, Anikeme. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much, the human resource team. And thank you all for doing the podcast better than we do. Thank you very much. It was very nice.
And then Abraham, I've got a gift for you. I remember the first time I saw your name, was when I was creating an email address for you. So that goes for everybody. But no, seriously, the first time your name really started shining in my head was in the JLD meetings when you were the lone person remaining in the graphics team and still carrying that light. Being creative still, doing the visuals and the animations for the podcast team, doing the editing and now co-hosting. It's just amazing for me, the tenacity that you have had, the calm strength that you exuded, and how you just always humble, but always having a voice. You express what you need to express, but there's a calm humility and a very underrated strength about you. And I just want you to know that we see it, we know it, and we see you. Thank you for being an amazing pillar and a solid anchor in your team and to IHF. We appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm really honored to hear these words. They're such kind words and very, very encouraging. Thank you once again. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, podcast team, thank you for your time again. I'm going to ask my partners in crime to greet everybody, and then I will wrap up for all of us. Chloe, would you like to go first, please?
Yes. So thank you so much for the podcast team letting us take over for today. I hope in future we'll also have such a lovely chance. So thank you so much. And I have really enjoyed co-hosting this segment and just learning about your journeys, how the podcast team came to be in IHF. And I'm sure the listeners will enjoy listening to how the podcast team came to be and how far it has come, and basically all the challenges, all the successes it has achieved this year of 2024. So thank you so much and have a very lovely holiday. So thank you, everyone.
To the members of the podcast team and our listeners, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for agreeing to have this podcast session with us, because we were like, every time the podcast team is having to interview people, let us interview them. Let's also appreciate them. And I'm glad you all agreed to join us in this podcast. I really learned a lot today, because I usually thought that you people are just very perfect, like there was no challenges and everything, because of how perfect your podcast sessions are always. But I've learned a lot. I got to know more about the podcast team, and I'm sure that our listeners too have learned a lot and they have gotten to know more about the podcast team. So thank you for all you do. And to our listeners, please, if you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our podcast to other people who you think would be interested in having fun with us.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much. A perfect crime cannot be done without the perfect partners, and you have done an amazing job in this takeover, this hostage situation that we've had with the podcast team. And thank you, podcast team, for allowing yourselves to be our victims. Now, as we go into the holiday period, it's December, and some of us will be celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, Bodhi, Kwanzaa, whichever holiday you are going to be celebrating. You and your family be safe, be joyful, and always share the biggest gift always, which is yourself. Thank you all. Have an amazing rest of the day. Goodbye.
Choice round. In every moment, love is found.